Oh crap, it's recording. Oh, I didn't even notice that. Hey, what is going on, everybody? My name is Payne, and welcome to another anime review video. Oh boy. I knew we were going to finally come back to this. God help me. Out of all the shows that I've watched, I don't think I've had that much history with any other show, let alone any other franchise, than the Evangelion franchise. Whether it's because I'm seeing more stuff about it, considering that, a new movie just got announced, I think the day I released the Neon Genesis review, or maybe the day after that a new movie was coming out in 2020 to finish the rebuild of Evangelion franchise, or if it's the one franchise that I talked about the most when I'm not making videos, either on social media or just in person, for anyone who even pays attention to my social media. Regardless, the after effects that the show has given me, either from the show or from the people, is something that is going to follow me wherever I go for the rest of my life, whether I like it or not. So when I finished making the Neon Genesis review, something in the back of my mind was telling me to review this movie, even when I was reviewing the other shows like Shimoneta, the Ballroom one, I forgot what that was called already, Ballroom Yukoso, and Hinamatsuri. But, I'm not complaining about it. I've always wanted to review this show, and it's something that one of the main reasons why I wanted to make this channel was not only to review shows, but to dig deep into the reason why a show is infamous or popular or very well known, just like this one. So let's just get right into this. This is the one, the only, one of the greatest anime movies of all time, The End of Evangelion. The End of Evangelion is a science fiction film that was co-directed by Hideaki Anno and Kazuyu Tsurumaki, who is an assistant director in the Neon Genesis Evangelion TV series. It was co-made by both Studio Gainax and Production IG and was released in theaters on July 19th, 1997, lasting an hour and 25 minutes long. In other words, this movie is now old enough to drink. Imagine a show like this, but drunk. It's not good. It would just make the show more of an acid trip than it already is. This movie was made along with Evangelion Death and Rebirth after multiple fans and critics criticized the final 2 episodes of the TV series, saying that they were flawed, incomplete, and was a blind shot towards fans who were interested in the show for its action. And even though the final 2 episodes were heavily criticized, Hideaki Anno, the director, defended the final 2 episodes and its artistic integrity, saying that more people have actually watched Evangelion because of those final 2 episodes, and that he's disappointed that hardcore fans didn't see how much effort that not only him but Studio Gainax put into episode 25 and 26. So, fast forward to 2 years later in 1997, where Studio Gainax launches a project to create a film ending for the series. They first released Evangelion Death and Rebirth on March 15th, and it had 2 parts. First was the death part, which profiled, it was a character condensed based recap and re-edit of the TV series, and the Rebirth part was the first 30 minutes of the end of Evangelion. It was originally intended to have the full ending, but it couldn't be finished due to budget and time constraints, something that Studio Gainax was all too familiar with, and the project was completed later in the year and released on July 19th as the end of Evangelion. Now, before I get into the plot and before I talk about the story, I highly suggest you watch my Neon Genesis Evangelion review, as it will give some new viewers a chance to catch up on what this show is all about, what does everything mean as it picks up from a certain point in the series. Now, it can either be that, or you can just go watch the TV series now instead of the video, but hey, it's your call. And so, with that out of the way, let's get into the story. So before we get into the story, let's mention where the plot picks up, as it picks up from a point in the TV series. It picks up as the group overlooking the military organization NERV, a committee group known as SEILE, is preparing the Human Instrumentality Project, and the sweetest and most precious little shit, known as Asuka Langley Soryu, is still in a comatose state after her experience with the angel that made her experience her troubled past all over again. And the world's most famous pussy, Shinji Ikari, has just come off killing the final foretold angel Kaworu, who was the final angel that was said to bring in the third impact. And so the movie starts out with Shinji looking over Asuka's comatose body after killing Kaworu, and it shows him after what it presumed to be Shinji masturbating over her unconscious body. Wait, can we have a picture up here of this? Oh, jeez, okay, way too big. Yeah, do you see that? Yeah. That's some good old-fashioned love nectar right there. Don't worry, even though it's messed up on so many levels, this is actually a pretty decent case of foreshadowing as the movie continues. But fortunately, after that, the movie does go somewhere, as Seilei discovers that the head of NERV, Shinji's father and father of the year Gendo Ikari, wants to use NERV for his own plans instead of Seilei, with each of them wanting to initiate the third impact under their own control. As you can tell, Seilei doesn't like that, and through their control of the United Nations, it orders a massive Leave No Survivors assault on Tokyo 3 by the Japanese Strategic Self-Defense Force, or JSSDF, who clear through most of the personnel of NERV quickly and efficiently. In response to the invasion, a NERV major named Masato Katsuragi forces Asuka out of her comatose state and moves her into the cockpit of her Evangelion Unit 2, and then rescues Shinji from a few troops herself. Determined to have Shinji defend NERV, Masato brings him to Unit 1's bay doors, but is shot in the process. But before her death, Masato implores Shinji to pilot the goddamn Eva, later kisses him, and forces him into the elevator. Concluding that NERV's defeat is inevitable, Gendo retrieves the third Evangelion pilot and world champion toast runner, Rei Ayanami, as he plans to use her to initiate the third impact and reunite Gendo with his deceased wife, Yui. Attempting to stop him, a NERV scientist named Ritsuko Akagi sends a computer command to destroy NERV, but the computer overrides her command, and then Gendo later kills her. Meanwhile, inside Unit 2, Asuka overcomes her trauma that was inflicted by her mother's death and reactivates the unit as she quickly destroys the forces, but after they were defeated, Seilei unleashes their new mass-produced Evangelion units who were made originally to initiate the third impact. After what is known as one of the best anime battle scenes of all time, it unfortunately ends with the mass-produced units disemboweling her and Unit 2, immediately killing her. Shortly after, Unit 1 arrives and ascends above NERV headquarters, and as you can see from the following clip, this is what he sees. Absolutely disturbing. What he saw was the mass-produced units carrying the mutilated remains of Unit 2. The clip still gives me chills to this day, even while looking it up, and even while I have to bring it back up again for the editing process. I'm going to link a video in the description down below. It is a 20-minute video of basically everything I've just said in the last 5 minutes, from Asuka defeating the self-defense forces, to her fighting the mass-produced Evas, to the final meeting between Shinji and Masato, and when Gendo kills Ritsuko. That is all in a 20-minute video. I'm going to link all of it down below. Really, all I can say about it is that for anyone who has, like, epileptic issues, there are some flashing images, and for anyone who doesn't have epileptic issues, I'm still going to have to warn you guys because there are some pretty disturbing imagery in this clip. But other than that, it's easily the best scene in the entire movie. I'm going to link it down in the description for anyone who wants to see it. But now that that's out of the way, let's get back to the plot. And meanwhile, underneath NERV headquarters, Gendo attempts to merge with Rei, who carries the soul of Lilith, who is an angel hidden beneath NERV headquarters, to begin the third impact, which means that because Gendo's already merged with another angel, Adam, that he will become a god if he merges with Lilith. However, Rei rejects Gendo and turns the tables on him, and Rei actually absorbs Adam from Gendo, reuniting Adam with Lilith, turning Rei into this giant, gargantuous version of herself. I'm going to post some pictures about it shortly. It's just couldn't find a place here in the video. Meanwhile, on the surface, the mass-produced Evas pull Unit 1 into the sky and end up crucifying it, beginning the ritual to initiate the third impact. And after several dreamlike contemplations, including a fight with Asuka in their kitchen that ends with Shinji carrying and choking Asuka, Shinji decides that he is alone and that everyone in the world should die, and that in response to his belief, Rei/Lilith, that's the best way I could call her, dissolves humanity back into LCL, which was used originally as a way to allow Eva pilots to mentally link with the Evas, reforming the souls of humanity into a single consciousness. All I can say after that is that I'm never going to see Orange Juice the same way again. And Shinji later rejects this new state when he realizes that life is about experiencing joy as well as pain, and because of his change of heart, Rei/Lilith dies, but not before these life-altering images of her rising up to the sky, Rei/Lilith inexplicably turning into Kaworu right in front of Shinji, who is still crucified, and a whole lot of religious symbolism that transpired into the third impact. In the end, Asuka and Shinji are rematerialized in an apocalyptic landscape, and the movie ends when Shinji begins to strangle Asuka, and then this happens. Now before I get to the review portion of this video, there are a couple of things that were in the movie that I want to mention. The first is the number of live action sequences that were seen during the instrumentality portion of the movie towards the end, and there were a few separate instances of that. The first is that towards the ending there was a series of emails and letters that were shown. The commonly held belief about this was that the death threats were for the ending of the TV series, when in fact the death threats shown on screen at least were in regards to not the ending of the TV series, but to the ending of Death and Rebirth. And most of these death threats were in fact letters of praise and encouragement. They couldn't even consider to be death threats in the first place. Only 2 can really be considered death threats, while only 1 can even really be considered hate mail. The second one was during the instrumentality portion. It was a pan shot of an audience sitting in a movie theater, and then shortly after that, a shot of that same movie theater, but empty. It's later revealed that the audience was watching the instrumentality portion of the last movie, Death and Rebirth, and that it was set in a cinema hall called Shinjuku Milazona, which has been a hotbed for Evangelion fans because it was shown in this movie until it was closed 17 years later in 2014. This shot was in reference to the final 2 episodes of the TV series where instrumentality was heavily depicted as a part of a theatrical set, like on a stage. And the final piece is not even anything that's in the movie. It's an 11-minute live-action short based in the Evangelion universe, but in an alternate reality. The film contains live-action clips from the movie, as well as some never-before-seen clips that were used only for this short, as the clips that were in the movie were modified and overdubbed with dialogue between Shinji and Rei. Although the whole short never made it in the theatrical release, it was eventually released as bonus material in the DVD for End of Evangelion, known as Renewal of Evangelion. Because it's never been sold officially outside of Japan, the short has never been officially translated to English. I'm going to link the video down below for anyone who wants to watch it, and because of that, I'm not going to spoil it. But all I'm going to say is that it stars 3 female voice actors from the End of Evangelion. It stars Yuko Miyamura, who voices Asuka, it stars Kotaro Mitsuishi, who voices Misano, and it stars Yuriko Yamaguchi, who voices Ritsuko. Even Hideaki Anno had a cameo towards the end of the short as what I presume to be Shinji, because they don't really explain anything more than just, you know, the one line that he says at the end of the short. Again, I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to link the video in the description down below. While there is an overlap with the material that is presented in the End of Eva, there is also material in the movie that's not shown in the live-action short, such as the movie theater scene, and another scene where 3 people dressed up as Rei, Asuka, and Misato are facing away from the camera in the middle of a busy street. And to this day, it's not been determined if whether a more complete version of this short exists, and if important details are missing from either the short or the movie. The second part is really, what does the final scene of End of Eva mean, with Shinji and Asuka laying on the beach in a sea of orange Fanta, and Shinji ends up strangling Asuka. This has been a hot topic for both anime fans and Eva fans since the movie's release over 21 years ago, through different questions like, why did Shinji strangle Asuka? Or Asuka's final line, Komochi Warari, which vaguely translates to how disgusting. What does that mean? That was only a couple of questions among many, many others, but those 2 are the most important ones that I'm going to be trying to answer here today. For the first question, why did Shinji strangle Asuka? First off, we need to approach the scene as a stylistic and metaphorical portrayal of both Shinji and Asuka's current mindset and relationship. As opposed to the natural and practical what happens after physically scene, I think Hideaki Anno, the director, wanted a final interaction between the 2 having gone through their revelations and ordeals. That being said, all the gestures, expressions, and words don't necessarily imply their immediate conditions. In other words, the strangling wasn't done out of the intent to kill. I know it sounds like a stretch, but let me explain the composition of the scene. First off, in this scene, Shinji and Asuka have their roles reversed, with Shinji being the aggressor and Asuka being more tame, not doing more than just caress Shinji's face. What does this mean exactly? Well, it means that the 2 are trying to communicate their true nature and feelings to each other. Acting unrestrained by their long-upheld defensive behavior leaves them vulnerable as well. Shinji speaks up and reveals his selfish and violent hatred towards Asuka, and so Asuka responds by doing the same, by expressing the exact opposite that Shinji is expressing to her, revealing her true compassion for him instead of her typical violent nature. Shinji later realizes this, stops strangling her, and breaks down to tears, and he's relieved, I think, that Asuka has accepted him and reverts back to his wimpy self. Asuka looks down on him and also reverts back to her harsh self with her final remark. They go back to their comfort zones, but what has transpired is clear, that they have advanced heavily in their relationship. This exchange of true feelings out of compassion and understanding is what they have tried so hard to do, which was to reach out to others. In many ways, this could also be seen as a confession scene, as the two have successfully reached a level of communication that they have never done before. As for the second question, what does kamochi warari, or how disgusting, mean in this case? Well, there's a couple of answers to that, or a couple of things I want to mention about that. First is a really interesting topic of how the term got coined in the first place, as that term wasn't in the original script. What happened was that Hideaki Anno, the director, had originally wrote for Yuko Miyamura, the voice of Asuko, the following line: "I'd never wanted to be killed by you of all men, absolutely not." But Anno didn't like how Miyamura said it, no matter how many times she said it. And after a little while, Anno asked her to think of the first thing she would say when she finds out that, of all things, someone was masturbating over her while she was sleeping. Her first response: disgusting. And the rest is history. And now that we know that the term was coined, how does it work in the movie so well, even though it wasn't in the original script? To answer that, we gotta look at the two other times during the series that term was used. The first being when Shinji first breathed in the LCL inside Unit 1 in the first episode of the series, and the second is when Asuka is talking to her quote-unquote mother on the phone, complaining about living with Shinji and Masato when she first arrives to Tokyo 3. I think that Asuka said kamochi warari in that ending scene because she was recalling when she was in LCL as LCL herself, and when her mind was being merged with the whole of humanity. She said it because of everything else that she just went through, both physically and mentally. Physically, because of her being in LCL and being LCL when she lost physical form, and mentally, because in that state, and during instrumentality, her soul was bared to the world, as she wasn't just sharing Shinji and Misato's air and space, she was in a way sharing them with everyone else in the world. Now, there are a decent number of things that I didn't give a lot of attention to, such as the time where Megumi Ogata, the voice actor for Shinji, actually choked the voice actor for Asuka, Yuko Miyamura. Ironically enough, while they were recording this scene of Shinji choking Asuka in the kitchen, to when people who watched the end of Eva in theaters were given a pamphlet that was made to inform people who were unfamiliar with the series about the show through a commentary and glossary section that was unofficially called the Red Cross Book, due to the Red Cross with a little title on it over a black background on the cover. But now it is time for me to look at this movie as a movie and not just some hour-and-a-half long conspiracy theory like I have been for the last 10 minutes. So let's start with the animation. I've always enjoyed the series animation. Everything was just really neat and incredibly flawless, and it stands off as good even today. The same goes for the end of Evangelion. It had nice animation, and I really liked the effects appearing when the Eva series were invoking the third impact. To be honest, at first I was a bit surprised that they suddenly decided to put in real-life clips, but in the end, it did have its positive effects. One thing that I've always enjoyed about Evangelion is the music, which is pretty obvious considering in my Neon Genesis review I said that the Cruel Angel's Thesis is one of my favorite anime songs of all time. When it comes to putting music in shows, music often portrays the mood very well, so much that you can often, only by listening to the song, get a picture of the current mood. However, the music they use in Evangelion often goes the opposite way, and it makes a great contrast to the events that are unfolding in that very moment. This, however, only strengthens the mood more than any song portraying the mood in a normal way would do. Not to mention that the songs that they use in the end of Evangelion are great standalone music as well, just like Cruel Angel, with one song in particular that, believe it or not, has actually been stuck in my head more often than Cruel Angel. And it is a song called Komm süßer Tod, which is German for Come Sweet Death. It's an English-speaking J-pop song that was written by Hideaki Anno about suicide and depression, and is one of a couple songs played as the third impact was unfolding towards the end of this movie, which to me is the cherry on top of this cake of depression. Evangelion is a psychological anime, and that the characters are and behave like they would in a show like this. They're all traumatized or have some kind of emotional problems going on, and that the original series portrayed the characters and the problems very well, and the movie also did that. I feel like, in many ways, that they were real human beings. I ended up sympathizing with them. They have deep emotional struggles, and you're nearly dragged into them at different points in the show. Overall, the truth of the matter is that this film is a masterpiece in not only anime, but in animation and filmmaking in general. It's not afraid to ask some of the most philosophical questions we often ask ourselves as people, and is not afraid to have us, the viewer, realize the answers even as the characters on screen are doing the same. If you're going to see this movie, I highly suggest you watch the 26-episode series first, otherwise you're not going to know what's going on. But other than that, this is a very, very amazing movie. End of Evangelion is one of the most artistic and beautiful movies I think I've ever seen. animated or not. And this is a mandatory movie to watch, I think, for any fan of anime or film in general. And it's with that and a huge amount of pride that I will give the end of Evangelion a major 10 out of 10. Thank you guys for watching my End of Evangelion review. The past couple of days of writing the script and getting everything prepared for this was just absolutely fun. If you liked this video, hit the like button down below. And if you want to see more anime review videos and videos from this series, the Rebuild of Evangelion series, hit the subscribe button on the screen or down below as well. Also, if you want to see more review videos that I've made, there's a couple of links on the screen, and there's more on my channel down below. And if there's any shows that you would like to suggest, you can leave them down in the comments below. And once again, guys, my name is Payne, and I'll see you in the next video. It all returns to nothing. It all comes tumbling down, tumbling down, tumbling down.